welcome to Crazy Dave's Kitchen. Today we're going to make a crazy focaccia. This recipe is great for a day when you have errands to do, or time it out the best you can. So what makes this recipe so crazy is the amount of yeast and water. It's a very liquidy type of dough, and it's going to rise for 5.5 to 6 hours. So if you start it early in the morning, you'll be munching on delicious focaccia by the end of the evening. If you start it too late in the afternoon, you'll be enjoying delicious focaccia at about midnight. It really depends on how you want to do it. Anyway, we're going to start with this. Our main ingredients, to get this rolling anyway, it's going to be 3 2/3 cup of bread flour, 5 teaspoons of yeast. And I know that sounds like a lot, but this thing is going to rise. It's actually going to rise, it's going to deflate, and it's going to rise again. And that is going to make a really nice, bubbly focaccia bread. So 5 teaspoons of dry active yeast. Going to have 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 cups of cool room temperature water. And so we're going to start with these ingredients to begin with. So we're going to go ahead and add our 3 2/3 cup flour into our mixer. Oh yes, let's not forget the stand mixer. So we're going to add that into the mixer. We're going to add our 5 teaspoons of dry active yeast. We are going to add our 1 teaspoon of sugar. That's going to give our yeast something to feed on. And then we're going to add our water, like so. And then we will put in our dough hook. And we're going to mix this. We'll put that down, lock it in place. And we're going to mix this once we plug it in. Hello? The electricity. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. And we're going to start mixing this, and we're going to mix this for about 5 minutes or so on medium speed. See, everything came from the sides of the ball. It's looking pretty clean. The mixer's been running about 5 minutes. And from here, we're just going to turn that off. We're going to pull down our dough, and it's going to be sticky. It's going to stick to your fingers a little bit. Don't be alarmed. And we're just going to leave it set down in the center of the bowl there. We're going to take out our dough hook, and we're just going to cover this with plastic wrap for about 5 minutes or so. Right in the bowl. And then we're going to revisit this, and then we're going to add our salt. So right now we're just going to let this sit, let everything kind of mix together. So now we've uncovered this. The dough is set for 5 minutes. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt to the dough. We're going to attach our dough hook, and we're going to run the mixer for another 5 minutes, making sure that it's all nice and mixed in. And run it at medium speed for a solid 5 minutes. Set a timer if you need to, and just let it run. Okay, so I have this thing sailing along at medium speed, mixing all the salt in there. My timer is just stopped for the 5 minutes, and you really need a solid 5 minutes. So then we're just going to take this dough, and it's going to be very gooey. That's exactly what we want. And again, it's all from the sides of the bowl. Should come pretty cleanly off the dough hook. just going to take this and put it into another bowl to rise. And we're going to use quite a bit of olive oil in this recipe, so have a lot handy. He's going to be, I don't know, either amazed or shocked. So in this large bowl, we are going to take 2 tablespoons of olive oil and put it into the bowl. We're also going to wipe the edges of the bowl with the olive oil so that as this dough climbs up the sides of the bowl, it's not going to stick. So go ahead and do that with your fingertips, just grabbing from down below. And then we're just going to grab our dough from the bowl. Maybe it's better with a spatula. Maybe we should use the famous red spatula. Now with everything kind of stuck together, so we're going to just kind of work this way, work this down, out of the bowl, and into the other bowl. I forgot how sticky this actually gets. So here we go. That's looking good. We just want this to set in the center, and you can see the pool of olive oil on the edges. You want to kind of dip your fingers in and kind of get that onto the top of the dough. We don't want the dough to dry out while it's sitting in this pool of olive oil, especially the top. So you're just going to lightly dip your fingertips in the dough and just cover the top, slather it all with the olive oil. And like I say, we're going to cover this up with plastic wrap shortly. Just coat it all with all this olive oil. And we're going to let this rise. And again, that's a great time to do your errands, do laundry, go shopping, go see a movie. This is going to sit for 5.5 to 6 hours. It could even be a little longer than 6, but I don't know how much time you have. Cover it tightly with plastic wrap. My thing is busted. My cutter is broken. That's not good. Anyway, you get the gist. You're going to cover it with plastic wrap, and we're going to let this sit and rise for 5.5 hours. We'll see you later. Okay, so we're back. Our dough has risen for the 6 hours. And if we take the plastic wrap off, you'll see we have a frothy, almost like it's a live dough. It's pretty jiggly. We are going to take this and we're going to add to this pan 2 tablespoons of, what is it again, kids? Olive oil, right? So 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the bottom of the pan. And we have a, what is this, a 13 by 19? I believe so. 13 by 19 pan. Also, we have the oven preheating to 500 degrees. And we're going to need a little something extra that I probably should have mentioned earlier, but I'll mention it now. We're going to need a baking stone or you could use a pizza stone, something in the middle of the rack, or even baking steel, something that's going to get very hot and hold this tray really what's going to happen is this dough is going to fry with all of this olive oil, not only within the dough. Yeah, I believe it's a 13 by 9 by 2 baking pan, slathered again in olive oil. In the oven, a baking stone or baking steel or pizza stone. In the middle rack, and the oven at 500 degrees. We're not quite where we need to be yet, but it is preheating at 500 degrees. We're going to take this dough and literally pour it into the pan, scraping, of course, the sides. We don't want too much of the bubbles to deflate as we move this out of the bowl and into the pan. And we're really going to let gravity do a majority of the work here. You can see all that olive oil, all that aliveness with all of the yeast that we have in there. If we can just coax this to come on out with all that olive oil richness, maybe, hopefully, there it goes. Maybe. Always exciting when we're filming, right? Come on, bad boy, let's go. All right. That's not bad, although it's not filling the pan, is it? We kind of want to coax this a little bit. It's not quite the look I'm going for here. Maybe if we can turn this the other way, since it's so slippery. There we go. Now we kind of want gravity to sort of take hold. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of settled out a little bit into the pan. I've got the tomatoes in place. We're going to do just a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to just take a half teaspoon of salt, and not even use the whole thing, because I believe that the brine from the olives has just enough salt. I don't want to over salt this. I'm going to add some a few pinches of black pepper, just sprinkled about, and I also have a teaspoon of dried oregano. So a little bit of black pepper, sprinkled about, and then some oregano. The olives, again, very nice briny olives. And we're also going to pour a little bit of olive oil on top of these tomatoes. I have these Campari sweet tomatoes. I chose the smaller, not cherry tomatoes. I suppose cherry tomatoes would work well with this too. I went with a little larger. I did make this once before with cherry tomatoes, and it turned out well. And then just on top of the tomatoes, we're going to drizzle, pour, drizzle a little bit more olive oil, just so they don't dry out in the cooking process. This is going to go into a 500-degree oven for 20 minutes. And then when it's in the oven, it is going to sizzle with all of this. I don't know if you can see this pooling olive oil, with all the olive oil we have in this, between the dough, the pan, the extra olive oil on top. It's really going to sizzle, and you're going to hear it fry for 20 minutes, and it's really going to come out quite beautiful if all of this works out well. So we'll see you in about 20 minutes. Okay, so here we are, 20 minutes later, well, a little longer. So we pulled it out of the oven. We let it cool for about 30 minutes in the pan. Then we pulled it out onto the wire rack, let it cool another 30 minutes. But you can see, I don't know which piece to choose. This is very, very light and airy. You can see the bubbles on there. You can see the crust underneath as the olives fall off, but it's very crispy. The crust is very firm and crispy from all that olive oil. The olives, of course, falling out, but the tomatoes are nice and blistered. And again, it's the rise that we're looking for. That's from sitting for the 6 hours. Really makes for a good, firm focaccia, nice and bubbly, just like the kind you get at a specialty store. You make it right in your own home. The crust is great. It's olive oily. It's crunchy, and a fantastic treat. I hope you try this recipe sometime soon. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to make as well. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.